Daji, and today we're going to be talking about the latest controversy to take the world of Fortnite by storm, and that is the state of shotguns in Season 9. As I'm sure you're all aware, the introduction of Season 9 saw the vaulting of Fortnite's most iconic, long-lasting and commonly used weapon in the pump shotgun. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at whether this was a good change, and what can be done to improve the overall state of shotguns in the game. Now, the pump shotgun was the go-to weapon for most players in the game the last few seasons, with it able to deal high damage output and having one-tap potential, making the pump SMG combination absolutely lethal. However, Epic weren't happy with the way the pump was being used, which caused them to vault it. In a blog post released shortly after the start of Season 9, they explained their decision by saying this: they currently account for over 26% of eliminations in default playlists, with the next weapon type not even coming close. Rather than nerfing the pump shotgun to a point where it no longer lives up to its fantasy, our preference is to return it to the vault, giving us an opportunity to revisit the general balance of the item, while introducing a new shotgun. However, I have many issues with this reasoning. They claim that the pump shotgun accounting for 26% of kills is really high, but the reason for this is that the pump was the only viable weapon close range, other than SMGs, as all other weapons paled into insignificance in comparison to the pump. Players have asked for the TAC to be buffed and for the heavy shotgun to return for a long time now, but their pleas were met by deaf ears. Therefore, understandably, players were always going to gravitate to a weapon like this, that allows for players to deal out huge burst damage before moving back undercover. In fact, I was surprised that only around 1 in 4 kills came from the pump shotgun, considering the vast majority of kills tend to come between a medium and close range. I think this was a more than fair figure, that I think shows how people didn't feel able to rely on other weapons close range. The other options simply weren't viable. The TAC was considered unusable by many due to its inconsistency and lack of range, and then SMGs have bloom and force players to expose themselves when they use them. So it's only natural that the pump shotguns dominated the close range meta. I was a big fan of the pump shotgun being an effective weapon in the game, as it was a very satisfying weapon to use, with it massively rewarding your aim and completely relied on your skill. Unlike assault rifles and SMGs, which have bloom that decides whether your shots hit, it was one of the most rewarding weapons in the game, which is why it had become a staple of players' loadouts since the very first season. And since its removal, it's had a huge impact on gameplay. With people now relying on much weaker shotguns, it means that engagements last a lot longer, which makes third partying even more prominent. It was already bad, but with this, as well as all the slipstreams, it's next level now. It also makes build fights more awkward now, as you have to get right up in their face if you use an attack. However, as much as I do wish the pump was still in the game, I can appreciate that there are some benefits to this. I've been on record in saying that I did think pumps were a little bit too dominant. Pumps have always been strong, but when they buffed them and introduced the epic and legendary versions, their dominance of the meta became even more prominent. If you didn't have a pump, you were screwed, even if you had a TAC. It simply didn't cut it in comparison. Having a blue pump early game was disgusting, considering most players didn't have any shield, meaning it would only take one shot to kill them. So frankly, with Fortnite not budging on the rate of shield spawns, I did feel that pumps being able to do 100 or more base damage was a bit too high. I like them being strong, but for me, this was too much. And now, with the pump vaulted, you can't get luckily one-pumped by noobs anymore. Not to say that people were always lucky to get a one-tap on you, as it generally did take skill. But now, if you want to kill someone, you've got to show more consistency with your shots, as it takes more shots to finish someone off. A bad player can hit a one-off shot, but can he hit 2? Or 3? I'm not so sure. Also, with the pump vaulted, loot RNG doesn't feel quite as big of an issue. If someone gets a shotgun and you don't, it's not a disaster now. Whereas before, people would often run from fights if they saw an enemy had a pump, and they didn't. So there are some positives of vaulting the pump. However, naturally, people were angry about this, and a big reason for this is due to what they replaced it with the combat shotgun expected to come in and take its crown as the king of shotguns. However, it didn't take long until people were disappointed, seeing the combat shotgun was a much weaker weapon, and one to be used in a completely different way to the pump. Although the combat shotgun looks very similar, it plays out very differently, with it instead being a lot more like a combination between the TAC and the heavy, with it having a high rate of fire and the ability to use from range. People quickly deemed it the sniper shotgun, due to its ability to deal out decent damage from much further than any shotgun we've seen before. However, despite its unique functionality, the weapon received an extremely polarising response from players, with some loving it, calling it overpowered, and then others branding it the worst shotgun we've ever seen. And I think a big reason for this is due to how inconsistent it was when it was first released, with it being simply broken when first introduced. I'll show a clip of Daquan which shows this pretty perfectly.
Possibly can get it. Okay, that was pretty good.
Why do you hit less than the second shot? And the third? But you hit a lot of damage at first.
I don't understand.
That makes no sense.
What are you talking about? That doesn't make sense.
What
Wait,
the?
Alright, hold on. No. Let me do it with the tech. Wait. Oh, that makes.
This inconsistency did end up getting patched. However, even top level players were usually dropping the combat shotgun in favour of the TAC. What else makes the weapon so frustrating is the fact it's a high risk, low reward shotgun, with its bullet spread being so small that it makes it very difficult to hit shots with, especially from close range, as well as only having a 1.7 headshot multiplier, meaning it can do a maximum damage of 138. Therefore, a gold combat shotgun can actually do less damage than a grey TAC, which is crazy. In comparison to the TAC, the combat shotgun is so much more difficult to use, yet doesn't have the damage output to make up for it. Sure, it's great at range, but surely at that point you're better off using an SMG, and especially better off using a drum gun. I posted a poll online to see what shotguns people were using, and the TAC came out on top, despite it being considered almost unusable just a couple weeks ago. The combat shotgun can be good, very good in fact, but unless you have pinpoint aim, a TAC will generally be a better option, especially seeing as it was buffed at the start of Season 9, with it now dealing an additional 5 base damage. As someone who has pretty poor shotgun aim, it definitely benefits me having the TAC as the best shotgun in the game. But that's not a good thing for the game's skill gap. With shotguns now in such a weakened position, it could not have been timed any worse, with the drum gun only just retaining. When you have the drum gun in the game, there needs to be a good counter to it. However, neither the TAC or combat is a particularly effective counter to it. If someone got up in your face and started melting you with the drum gun, you could line up a headshot with the pump and potentially one-tap them, which would punish them for exposing themselves. But now, neither shotgun can deal enough damage to provide a good enough counter. You could try with the combat, but it's so difficult to use because the spread is so small. And even if you hit with it, the multiplier sucks. And then, the TAC is still somewhat inconsistent. So what needs to be done? Well, firstly, I'd love to see the pump unvaulted. They could nerf it back to its prior form, when it did 80 to 85 damage. That way it wouldn't completely dominate like before, but it would still pack a punch. I'd also like to see the combat shotgun's base damage increased, even if it comes at the expense of the fire rate. As it stands now, it barely rewards you for being deadly precise. It's a difficult weapon to use, therefore the damage output should reward you for hitting your shots. Also, with the heavy shotgun's return hinted at in the Season 9 loading screen, I'm happy to see that we'll finally have some more variety again. There used to be a time when there were 4 shotguns in the game, and I wish we still had that much variety. I don't expect Epic to bring the pump back anytime soon, but I certainly hope they make some adjustments to the current state of shotguns, and at least add a little variety. I want a reason to use shotguns when I'm close range, instead of choosing to spray away with a drum gun. I just hope Epic are listening. So, how do you rate the new combat shotgun? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you want to support me as a content creator, then feel free to use my creator code, which is on screen now. So anytime you buy something in the item shop and use my code, it'll go directly towards supporting the channel, which would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe for more. And I'll see you next time for another video. Goodbye.